I would first congratulate them on making a very courageous move. It's not for everyone. And the one piece of advice I recommend to all is once you've started on the journey, don't give up. Do not give up. You're going to have so many challenges coming. And I fundamentally think, as a God-fearing man, that of all of our skills and talents that we have, we're truly not using them. Listen to this. You're not really using all the gifts you've got until you start a business.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where I help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Benoy Tamang. And Benoy started out his journey as dad was in the British Army, so he grew up moving around Southeast Asia a bit. And with that moving around, wasn't always great at or going into school, wasn't always great at math, but liked computers. Ended up after school going to get an MBA degree at BYU, Brigham Young University, after getting an undergraduate in computer science. From there, ended up working with a variety of different startups, a few of which started from scratch and a few of which joined some existing teams before leaving his last one. And his friend asking him to help coach a few of his portfolio companies. And so got into coaching and has been doing it ever since. So with that much as a introduction, welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you, Devin. You're a gentleman. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, well, I just gave a quick walkthrough or quick introduction to a longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack a bit and tell us a little bit more about how your journey got started with your dad in the British Army and growing up around Southeast Asia.
Actually, it's very formative because when you move from country to country, when you're not even in high school, you learn a lot about people. And fundamentally, I think that's where my love of business started. And actually, if you think about it, whatever your dad does, it's either an attracting or a repelling force in your career, because you look at what he does and what he doesn't do, and you go, hmm. And when he was in the military, I said, that's just too big. And so when it was time for graduating from high school, at that time we were located in Hong Kong, he said, hey, with your education, unlike your dad, you could be a commissioned officer and go through the ranks really well. You'd be set. You do well. And I said, Dad, guess what? I'm going to do small business and I'm going to be a capitalist. I'm sorry. I'm going to do something very different. And he said, go, make it happen. And so because of moving around, the ability to understand and read people was ingrained at an early age. And then wanting not to work for a large organization. When you think of a military organization, we're talking hundreds of thousands of employees. And gag, let me just say gag, right? That's the last thing I wanted to be associated with. So anyway, that's how it all started. I decided I didn't want to do that. And now through all of these companies and startups, now I'm here helping other companies, other individuals do the same.
Sounds like a great kickoff to your journey. So now, before we jump to the present day of you helping other businesses and go through that coaching business, so you went off or kind of had that realization, had that in mind. You went off to school and studied computer science or computer engineering, and then went and got an MBA. Is that right?
Yeah, now we're talking about the Stone Ages here, when I graduated from high school, and it was like, oh yeah, I think computers are going to be important. And it was a CIS degree, and I sucked at it, Devin. It was horrible. It was too math centric. My girlfriend, now wife, we've been together for 40 years. she is so good. She was the best programmer. And I realized, okay, I definitely want to get into business because I can't do this stuff. Anyway, long story short, ended up with a marketing MBA focus, and it helped me. And while I barely scraped by with a 3.4 for my undergrad, for grad school, a 3.8 was easy because it was all about business and having case studies and solving problems. Way more fun, way more fun. So anyway, I'll stop there.
No, I'm right there with you. So I did electrical engineering, and there was a heavy focus on math as well, and that was always one where you just had to chug through and make your way through it, and wasn't necessarily the most fun part of the curriculum, but part of it nonetheless. So now you come out, so you've got the undergraduate, and then you got the MBA. Did you just go straight through and study from undergraduate and then go to MBA school, or did you take any or time off to work during the middle of that?
I worked for less than a year, and I used my programming background, technology background, to actually work for a software solution that helped train auto mechanics on how to use computers to figure out their billing, their cases, their repairs, and ultimately have everything online. So I ended up being a software trainer in between undergrad and grad.
Hmm. No, sounds like a fun experience. So now, so you do that for a year, go off to graduate school, get the MBA degree. Now you're coming out of MBA school. So where did you go from there?
So what happened was I knew that I needed some experience in learning how to be a leader. And I was fortunate enough that back then Pacific Bell in LA, now AT&T, had what was called an AMP program, Accelerated Management Program. And they always hired MBAs to ultimately lead them to know how to run a phone business, and a massive one at that. I'm sure it was like 120,000 employees. Even though I told my dad I didn't want to do a big thing, I knew that coming straight out of school, I needed to get some experience on other people's dime. So I went there. I had 15 people reporting to me from day one. And 3.5 years later, I had 180 employees. We rotated around different facets of the business, operations, sales, finance, always leading teams. And then we had the riots of 1993, 91, 93, Rodney King and all of that. And it was a very bad time in LA. And I remember we were expecting our third child at that time. And I said, this is not a good place to raise a family. Let's get out of here and let's get out of this big business. So from LA, we moved to Utah, and it was the best thing ever. That was 30 plus years ago.
Now you moved to Utah. So what did as you're coming out saying, "Hey, I'm in Utah. I like Utah much better than I would LA. It just or suits me a lot better." And so you're saying, "Okay, you moved to Utah." So from there, what or career wise, or is you're saying, "Okay, now you still have to make the money. You still have to pay the bills." Kind of where did you pick up, or what did you do from there?
I took a half pay cut and came into a small word perfect company, like less than 5,000. And I said, oh, good, it's smaller. And I was there barely a year and a half. And then I started looking at and interviewing with very small startups that were not even 20 people employees. And so I jumped from a big company in LA to, WordPerfect with what, 5,000 employees to like a 20-man company called Viewpoint Data Labs. It was the best thing I ever did. I ran into how to start, how to build a business that was in the tech space, that had funding from venture capitalists. And I started to understand how a board works. And at that time when we started, I was responsible for all sales and marketing. We grew that business and we sold it to Computer Associates. And it was a good day and it was a good experience hanging around great quality people during that journey. From then, I just started successively doing more small businesses.
So now walk us through what were those kind of small
Good.
businesses that you did, and kind of what was
Yeah,
that progression?
I'm happy to share. So right after that, there was another company, and they were looking for a VP of marketing, and I said, okay, they've got funding. Let's do this again. And we went from 3D models and 3D animations and graphics, a very sexy business, to a company that did Linux operating systems. And Linux is free. It's a free OS. And all of a sudden, we had to have the challenge of making it into a a real business in which you actually charged for the use of the OS. And so that was a really good challenge and a really good experience. We were maybe 2025 again, small company. And ultimately, we figured out Business Linux was the tagline, and we grew that business. We went public. Then we acquired a bigger company called Santa Cruz Operation, SCO, and it was an Intel-based Unix company that already had lots of customers. And within 4 years of me joining, we were now 880 people. And that was a ride. That one had positives and negatives. You experience all of the growth and all of the leadership issues, and you learn how to manage a fast growing business. I'll never do it again. I wouldn't recommend it. It's nuts to do that. But we learned lots of lessons. I then jumped and started 4 companies from scratch. Everything to do with a marketing-led technology company, a direct mailer, videos that helped communicate and sell on behalf of all the major movie studios, Warner Brothers, Fox, and all of that. And even a company that helped B2C, how to help consumers save money at the grocery store by digitally and using paper, find all the coupons. This was pre-Groupon. And so had a blast. Many failures, many painful areas. But ultimately, I love the whole creative component. Then I joined, after that, I got asked by a good friend of mine who owns his own venture capital firm. And he said, hey, why don't you help out with this business of ours? And it has high potential. I came on as the CMO of a software company. We grew it easily 3 times. Then I became the CEO. And then I said, okay, with board issues and things, let's go change something completely different. And I had a friend then say, hey, from my portfolio, from my other venture capital company, would you consider being a coach for venture funded technology companies? And I've been doing that for the last just under 9 years.
Now, just one question just to follow up a bit and rewinding a little bit of your journey. So you moved through kind of the different startups, and whether it's one that you started from scratch or one that was existing in place that then you entered into. But how did you kind of decide, how long you're going to stay there, when you're going to transition the next one, and kind of what kind of guided that path along that period of time?
Some of the exits were automatic triggers for any of my equity to be cashed out. And there was no other building to be done. The creative element of the challenge was gone, and the financial windfall allowed me to move on. When we went public, though that was bad timing in that it was early 2001, and you know what happened in September 2001. So we had great promise, but everywhere in the world things crashed. So even though I had some value in my stock options and stock, I just decided, hey, let's move on. That was fun building a business. I never want to go to 880 in less than 4 years again. And so I started a business, and almost every one of those start from scratch businesses, there was a natural step because I sold it. I sold the first one. The second one, I folded. I folded it. It wasn't going to go anywhere. Third one, I sold it, but it was even it wasn't for much profit. Fourth one, I had to close it, shoot it in its head. It was just not working out, right? You just figure out at certain points whether it be a windfall or a downfall. It just makes a natural exit time to move on. And particularly for the creatives in all of us, we like the creation and the building. But maintenance is boring. Maintenance is when you get the talent in and get it together. Just like that last software company, we had really talented CTO who became the CEO, and it felt great. That was the right time to move.
Now, so you do that and makes sense, and sounds like there was some natural reasons for motivations for some of the transitions, and so you do that over a course of a career, and you also step in and work with some of your networks businesses. Now, as you're coming out of some of those, I think you mentioned that you started to get into that you were saying, hey, you had one of your people in your network or one of your friends and that say, would you come in and kind of coaching? Now, how did was that a natural transition of, hey, I've already worked a lot of startups and given a lot of mentorship, or was that a shift in gears, or kind of walk us through as you're kind of changing from doing a startup or a small business to now coaching them? How did that go?
It was actually the most positive accident that happened to me. It was accidental. I was asked by my friend that said, "Hey, would you help us with some due diligence? We're thinking about investing in this particular company down in Orange County, and it has the profile of your last company." And he said, "Do you have some cycles?" I said, "Sure." And I had fun going in and helping do the due diligence. Then afterwards, it was a request. You know what? Maybe you could help us a little bit more. Would you mind coaching this first-time founder? He's not had experience running a ship with all of this jet fuel and with the requirements, like in tech, it's always 100 million in as short time as possible valuation. Maybe the chances, you didn't say this, but maybe the chances of a higher return are going to be better if this new founder has a coach. So to answer your question, it was just fantastic timing. And I couldn't believe that as I got into it, all of those skills of growing those businesses, all of those international years allowed me to understand where people were coming from, to empathize in the aches and pains and the pure grind that sometimes business building is, and then be able to offer appropriately, whenever it was needed, advice, ideas, recommendations, even a sounding board. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that journey prior to that. Devin, it was just amazing, just how it all fell together.
Well, sounds like quite the great experience and the great journey. So you did that as a, hey, let's see what we can do. We'll get in, coach it, see if we can help it to be successful. Now, did you continue on with the coaching and working with a lot of different businesses, or did you do it one-on-one, or kind of look for unique opportunities, or kind of how did you go about continuing to coach other businesses?
Great question. So the kind venture capital firm that started me on this journey saw the improvements that were already happening and recommended another CEO in the portfolio for me to coach. And that just started the steamroll. When these CEOs found that they had someone safe to talk to, who had experience and could relate, and that they could ideate and find ways to improve their leadership, things took off. More and more referrals came in. And ultimately, the fact that I'm talking to you, I decided, you know what? I better do something a little more proactive and communicate what it is I'm doing. Even though I'm getting referrals coming in, it has been just interesting to see. Maybe I could help other companies, not necessarily just venture funded tech. It's any organization that has grown to a certain point where the employee base is way more than the founder originally had. And now the pressure is to transition from being a manager and a 10-armed single man octopus to a leader who is now using and having the help of talented, experienced vice presidents, C-level people. And now it's time to accelerate the growth and to do it systematically. Systematic, procedural processes, those never occur when you're first starting out. You're just living hand to mouth. But then you reach a certain stage of success. And it doesn't have to be a venture company, a tech company. It's just any business that grows to a certain level of success, 10, 20 million, 100 employees or more. Then it's time to go, oh, I got to transition. I've got to learn how to lead. And there's a different level of pressure and a different level of stress that comes at that point, particularly if you've got venture funding, because then you've got a professional board above you with expectations. And then you've got all of these new executives you've hired, and you're squeezed as a lonely guy in between the two, because you can't really say, well, I don't know, because you don't want to lose the trust and the benefit of the investors. And nor can you say to your newly hired executives, let me figure it out, right? So it's a pressure cooker from up and down, and that's where I come in to help the best.
Well, sounds like it's been a great journey and a great opportunity to help a lot of people along the way. So now, so catch us up a little bit. Where are things at today? How many businesses are you coaching or working with, or are you continuing to coaching, or have you retired on an island somewhere and enjoying life, or kind of walks through a little bit of where you're at today?
I'm not retired. I like to work. I really do. I love this role because it scratches the itch, Devin, of being able to create. And yet I have the luxury of not having to roll up the sleeves and being an operator, right? I get to participate and enjoy what's being done, but I don't have to be in the thick of things and in the trenches. So I will continue to work for a long time. And it's really fun. And because of, you know, Zoom and all of these team calls, I can do it from anywhere. Yes, I've done all of my work from Costa Rica, from Hawaii, from wherever I am. So the fact that I don't have to be fixed in one location makes it so much easier. So yes, I do 10, 15 clients at a time, and it's a blast. It's a blast. And my entire goal is to quickly get them to be self-sufficient so that they can continue to grow their business at a level of ease, at a level of time, work-life balance that they've never had before, and with huge scalable profits that they never had before. Those are the three things that I generally get to help them with.
Sounds like a fun or a lot of great opportunities to help others and an opportunity to have a fun time doing it. So that's awesome. So, well, now as we've kind of reached the present day of the journey and even looking a bit into or kind of where things are headed, great time to transition to the two questions I always like to ask towards the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
Oh, I can tell you that there are many decisions, many mistakes I've made, but one that still haunts me today was not a massive financial hit. It was more of it just ate inside of me because I made a decision that really hurt someone, my business partner. And it was unintended. It was during a very fearful, stressful, cash is tight kind of an issue. I had a business partner in one of my companies who was the money. He provided the investment and I was the operator. And we had an arrangement where I made an agreement that I would have my compensation tied to this kind of a base and a little bit of profit based on some level of quota, goals, whatever. And in the middle of the pressure of growing things and whatever, I made a decision to change one of those calculations for the acceleration or the commission portion of compensation for achievement, and I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him. And I should have, in my head, I was just coming to the realization it's minute, it's not whatever. But when, not that I said it, but when he found out and he confronted me, I couldn't say anything but I'm sorry. And it was at most hundreds of dollars. So we're talking tiny hundreds of dollars. But the mere fact that I didn't connect with my partner and ask him for his support in changing this, but I unilaterally made that decision, it's haunted me because I could see the look in his eyes that I betrayed him. So, hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever. No, this one element still haunts me, because I made a decision that wasn't inclusive. It was fear-based. How's that? It was fear-based. And I still remember that.
No, that's sounds like definitely a great lesson to learn from, and needs a mistake. And sometimes you're getting, you're going along, you're making a lot of decisions. You're saying, hey, this one's not a big impactful, and you try and communicate it, and yet from the opposite side, it looks like it wasn't reasonably communicated, or was wasn't being upfront or forthright, and then it creates that friction even when it's not intended by others, and then you have to work to reestablish that level of trust. So definitely sounds like an easy mistake to make, but a great one to learn from. Second question now that I like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you give them?
I would first congratulate them on making a very courageous move. It's not for everyone. And the one piece of advice I recommend to all is, once you've started on the journey, don't give up. Do not give up. You're going to have so many challenges coming. And I fundamentally think, as a God-fearing man, that of all of our skills and talents that we have, we're truly not using them. Listen to this. You're not really using all the gifts you've got until you start a business. You'd think, why would you say that? It's the level of deep soul searching, courage finding, acting on faith, the testing of your commitment, your relationship with your significant other spouse, your employees, all of it's tested. So go through that gauntlet of trials. It'll make you better because of everything that you've been gifted with, every talent that you've got. You have to dig in deep, build them, and become that much stronger. And I am very biased towards go start a business. I've told that to all of my children. But when you work as an employee, while there are some personalities who will do that, but you never get to stretch and learn as much as when you grow your own business. And so I'm a big supporter. Don't give up. My recommendation: do not give up. Go, 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 go.
Well, I
That's
think
what I would
that's
say.
definitely a great piece of advice and a great takeaway. So, well, now as we wrap towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
It's easy. techceocoach.com. techceocoach.com is my website. Got all my contact information. I've got a free ebook there for anyone who's interested. Again, fundamentally, I'm focused on the companies and the businesses that have already made momentum, are profitable, and are now looking for the accelerated growth that happens after you've gone through the fighting to get it to that point. So whether you have investment coming in from a VC or whether you're profitable and now want to get to the next level, that's primarily where I focus. I'm happy to help anyone. I'm happy to help them go and be directed to my army of talented people that I can refer them to. But techceocoach.com is the easiest way. And Darren, I appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to share your journey on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. Just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things, listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Benoy, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you all. Have a great day. Appreciate it, man. Thanks.